Black Waitress is fired for helping Andrew Tate. Next day, she gets the shock of her life. In a shocking turn of events, a young waitress found herself at the center of an unexpected whirlwind after a brief encounter with one of the most controversial figures of our time, Andrew Tate. Fired for an act of kindness, she never expected her life to take a dramatic twist the very next day. What unfolded after is nothing short of extraordinary, and it left everyone, including her, completely speechless. Stick around to hear the full story that will leave you both inspired and amazed. It was a crisp evening, and the buzz of the diner echoed with the clinking of cutlery and the low hum of conversations. Sarah, a 25-year-old waitress with an easy smile and a hard-working spirit, had been on her feet for hours. It was the kind of job that demanded stamina and a thick skin, but Sarah had both in spades. She wasn't one to shy away from challenges, even on the busiest nights. The diner was her second home, and the regulars were like an extended family. That evening, amidst the chaos of orders and chatter, a hush fell over the diner as someone walked in. Heads turned, whispers spread, and the tension in the air became almost palpable. Sarah looked up from the table she was serving and saw him, Andrew Tate. Dressed sharply and exuding an air of self-assuredness, he strode in and took a seat in a corner booth, seemingly unfazed by the attention he was drawing. Sarah recognized him immediately. He was a polarizing figure, someone whose name sparked debates and heated arguments wherever it was mentioned. While she had never paid much attention to the controversies surrounding him, she could feel the shift in the atmosphere. Some of her co-workers avoided his table, pretending to be busy. Customers glanced over cautiously, whispering and pointing. For Sarah, it wasn't a question of who he was. It was a question of doing her job. She wasn't one to judge anyone based on rumors or headlines. So, with her usual warm smile, she approached his table and greeted him. "Good evening, sir. Can I get you something to drink while you decide on your order?" Andrew looked up, his sharp gaze softening slightly. "Water would be great." "Thank you," he replied, his tone polite and measured. Sarah nodded and went to fetch his drink. As she returned to take his order, she noticed the stares from other patrons and the whispered exchanges between her co-workers. Ignoring them, she focused on her customer, jotting down his order and assuring him it would be out shortly. Throughout the evening, Sarah treated Andrew just like any other patron, offering quick service and friendly conversation when appropriate. He even thanked her before leaving, something she appreciated more than she let on. To her, it was just another table, another night. But she had no idea that her decision to serve him without prejudice was being quietly noted by others in the room. The next day started like any other. Sarah arrived at the diner early, her apron neatly tied and her notebook ready for the day's orders. However, there was an unusual tension in the air. Her manager, Mr. Langston, called her into his office before her shift even began. Confused but not alarmed, Sarah walked in, her smile faltering when she saw the serious expression on his face. "Sarah, we need to talk about last night," he began, folding his hands on the desk. His tone was firm, almost cold. "I've been getting calls. Apparently, you served Andrew Tate. Do you know who he is?" Caught off guard, Sarah nodded. "Yes, I know who he is. But he was just a customer. I didn't think it mattered." Mr. Langston sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. "It does matter. The diner has a reputation to maintain. People are saying we condone his behavior by allowing him to eat here. I need you to understand how this reflects on us." Sarah was stunned. "I treated him like any other customer. I didn't do anything wrong." "That's the problem," Mr. Langston snapped, his voice rising. "You didn't think. You should have refused to serve him or at least alerted me. Now, people are talking and it's making us look bad." Sarah felt her stomach churn. "So, what are you saying? Are you blaming me for doing my job?" He leaned back in his chair, his expression hardening. "Here's the deal. Either you apologize publicly for serving him and denounce his presence here, or we'll have to let you go." The words hit her like a slap. Sarah stared at her manager, disbelief etched across her face. Apologize? For what? For treating someone with basic human decency. It was a line she couldn't cross. "I'm sorry, Mr. Langston," she said, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. "But I can't apologize for doing what I believe is right. He was a customer, and I treated him as such." Her refusal seemed to anger him even more. Without another word, he reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a termination letter. "Then I have no choice," he said flatly, sliding it across the desk toward her. Sarah's hands trembled as she took the letter. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them back, refusing to let him see her break. She stood up, straightened her apron, and looked him in the eye. "I'll collect my things," she said quietly, before walking out of the office with as much dignity as she could muster. As she stepped outside into the chilly morning air, the reality of what had just happened sank in. She had lost her job, a job she loved, because she chose to stand by her principles. The weight of it all was overwhelming, but deep down, she knew she had done the right thing. What she didn't know was that her decision was about to set off a chain of events that would change her life forever. That evening, as Sarah sat on the worn couch in her small apartment, her emotions teetered between anger, sadness, and confusion. The diner had been her livelihood, a place she poured her energy into, and now it was gone in an instant. She replayed the conversation with her manager over and over, trying to make sense of it. What had she done that was so wrong? Could kindness truly be a reason to lose everything? Unbeknownst to her, the world outside was already buzzing with her story. A patron from the diner, someone who had witnessed the whole scene, had discreetly recorded Sarah's interaction with Andrew Tate. The video wasn't flashy. It simply showed her taking his order with a warm smile, chatting briefly, and later returning with his food. But in the background, the whispers and judgmental stares from others in the diner painted a stark contrast to her calm professionalism. The video had been uploaded to social media with the caption, "When kindness gets you fired, meet Sarah, the waitress who lost her job for treating Andrew Tate like a human being." It was a story people couldn't resist. Within hours, the clip started gaining traction, shared by influencers, commentators, and ordinary people alike. The debate ignited almost immediately. "Why should she lose her job for doing her job?" one user tweeted. "This is cancel culture gone too far." Others were less sympathetic. "She knew who he was. Serving him makes her complicit," another user posted, sparking a thread of heated arguments. The video continued to spread like wildfire, crossing platforms and gaining millions of views. Hashtags like "Justice for Sarah" and "Waitress fired" began trending. Influential figures weighed in, with some applauding her bravery for standing by her principles, and others criticizing her for engaging with such a polarizing figure. Sarah, completely unaware of the chaos brewing online, spent the evening scrolling job boards and updating her resume. She didn't have the energy to open social media, a habit she had formed long ago to avoid the negativity that often came with it. As a result, she missed the flood of messages pouring into her inbox. Messages from strangers offering support, job opportunities, and even financial help. The next morning, Sarah's phone buzzed incessantly. It wasn't unusual for her mum or a friend to check in, but this was different. Texts, emails, and calls poured in one after another. Finally, she picked up a call from her best friend, Rachel, who immediately started shouting. "Sarah, have you seen it? You're all over the internet," Rachel exclaimed. "What are you talking about?" Sarah asked, still groggy from a restless night. "The video. Someone posted a video of you serving Andrew Tate, and it's gone viral. People are talking about you everywhere." Sarah blinked in disbelief. "Wait, what video? Viral? Rachel, slow down." Rachel quickly sent her the link, and Sarah hesitantly clicked on it. As she watched the video, her heart raced. There she was, smiling and serving a customer, completely oblivious to the people recording her. The comments section was a mixture of outrage, support, and controversy. People debated her actions, her firing, and the broader implications of what had happened. "This can't be real," Sarah muttered, her hands trembling. She scrolled through the comments, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of opinions. Rachel's voice came through the phone again. "It's real, Sarah. You've become a symbol of something bigger. People are rallying behind you." As the day went on, the story continued to gain momentum. News outlets picked it up, framing it as a tale of morality, integrity, and the dangers of public judgment. Reporters reached out, hoping for an interview, while activists started petitions calling for the diner to reinstate her. Some even suggested boycotting the establishment altogether. For Sarah, it was surreal. She had spent her entire life avoiding the spotlight, content with her quiet existence. Now, her name and face were plastered across the internet. But what struck her most were the messages of encouragement pouring in. People shared their own stories of standing up for what they believed in, often at great personal cost. "Your story inspired me," one message read. "You reminded me that doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always worth it." Another wrote, "Sarah, you're a hero. The world needs more people like you." As the sun set on that whirlwind day, Sarah sat quietly in her apartment, scrolling through the messages and trying to process everything. She felt a strange mix of gratitude and fear. While she appreciated the support, she couldn't shake the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Her life had been upended in less than 48 hours, and she had no idea where this unexpected journey would take her next. The following morning, Sarah was jolted awake by a loud knock at her door. Startled, she glanced at the clock, 7:30 a.m. She wasn't expecting anyone. Throwing on a sweater, she hurried to the door, her heart racing. As she opened it, she found herself face to face with a sharply dressed man holding a briefcase. Behind him, a black luxury car idled at the curb. "Miss Sarah Thompson?" the man asked, his tone polite but professional. "Yes," she replied hesitantly, her grip tightening on the doorknob. "My name is Richard. I represent Andrew Tate," he said, offering her a business card. "He came across your story and asked me to speak with you personally. May I come in?" Sarah blinked, unsure of how to react. She was still processing the idea that she had gone viral. Now, Andrew Tate himself had sent someone to her doorstep. It felt surreal. Cautiously, she stepped aside and gestured for him to enter. Richard walked in, his movements precise and purposeful. Once seated, he opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. Mr. Tate was deeply moved by your actions, he began. You didn't judge him based on the public's perception, and you upheld your principles even when it cost you your job. He believes people like you are rare. Sarah sat across from him, her hands folded in her lap. I was just doing what I thought was right, she said quietly. And that, Richard continued, is why Mr. Tate wants to offer you an opportunity. He admires integrity, and he believes you possess the kind of character that could make a meaningful impact in his organization. Sarah's eyes widened. His organization? I'm not sure I understand. Richard smiled faintly. Mr. Tate runs several businesses, including a charitable foundation aimed at empowering individuals who face adversity. He'd like to offer you a position within the foundation, something that aligns with your values and allows you to continue making a difference. For a moment, Sarah was speechless. Just days ago, she was a waitress struggling to make ends meet. Now, she was being offered a job by one of the most talked about figures in the world. It felt too good to be true. I don't know what to say, she finally managed. There's no pressure to decide right away, Richard assured her. Take some time to think about it. But I will say this, Mr. Tate doesn't make offers like this lightly. He sees potential in you. As Richard left, leaving her with the folder detailing the job offer, Sarah felt a mix of emotions, gratitude, disbelief, and a lingering sense of caution. Was this a genuine opportunity, or was there a catch? She spent the rest of the day poring over the materials, researching the foundation and its initiatives. Everything seemed legitimate, even inspiring. By the time evening came, she had made her decision. A week later, Sarah boarded a flight to meet with Andrew Tate and his team. When she arrived at the foundation's headquarters, she was greeted with warmth and professionalism. Andrew himself met her in his office, thanking her personally for her kindness and courage. You didn't let public perception dictate your actions, he told her. That's a rare quality. I want you to bring that same integrity to this team. As she settled into her new role, Sarah quickly realized how transformative this opportunity was. The foundation worked on projects ranging from educational scholarships to mental health initiatives. Her job involved coordinating outreach programs, connecting with communities, and helping individuals who, like her, had faced setbacks but refused to give up. Sarah threw herself into her work, finding fulfillment in helping others. Her story became a rallying cry for resilience and the power of standing by one's principles. News outlets followed her journey, showcasing how she had turned a moment of adversity into a catalyst for change. Months later, as she stood on stage at a charity gala hosted by the foundation, Sarah reflected on how far she had come. The room was filled with supporters and beneficiaries of the foundation, all of whom had been touched by its mission. When she stepped up to the microphone to share her story, the audience fell silent. I never imagined that losing my job would be the beginning of something so much bigger, she began. I was just a waitress who believed in treating everyone with respect, no matter who they were. What I've learned through this journey is that kindness and integrity are not weaknesses. They're strengths. They can change lives, including your own. The crowd erupted into applause, and Sarah felt a deep sense of gratitude wash over her. What had started as a simple act of kindness had transformed her life in ways she could never have imagined. She had found a new purpose, one that allowed her to make a real difference in the world. By the end of the night, Sarah knew she'd truly found her calling. Her journey had been anything but ordinary, but it had taught her an invaluable lesson. Sometimes, the hardest choices lead to the most extraordinary outcomes.